Hello, researchers! Welcome to Introduction to College Research. I am Professor Lisa Melendez, and this first lecture is going to introduce you to the resources that you have available as a Doral College student to do research. In later episodes, in later lectures, we will look at all of the different other resources that you would have in order to do research, to do your projects for this course and beyond. But for now, we are going to start by looking at what we have here at Doral College for you to use. What does Doral College have to offer? Doral College has the following resources available to you. And I'll give you this brief overview, and then we are going to go over each one in depth. The first is the Gale Cengage research databases. The second is JSTOR. You also have an in-house library with various reference texts and your very own librarian. The Gale Cengage research databases are filled with all sorts of different resources, including Academic OneFile, which is full of abstracts and full-text academic journals and articles that you can use for research purposes. You also have the In Context series, which are sort of curated Wikipedia pages as well as kind of more in-depth, brief but in-depth looks at particular issues, including global issues, opposing viewpoints, if you're interested in looking at sort of hot-button debates and researching two sides to a potentially controversial issue. And if you're interested in U.S. history or world history, you have in-depth looks at different sort of global historical contexts. But let's actually look at the database and see what it looks like and see what kinds of things we can do with it. So this is the link that you would go to, galesites.com/menu/miam46690. And once you click on this, it should take you to this website, Gale Sites. And this is what it looks like. Here are your databases available to you. Academic OneFile, peer-reviewed full-text scholarly content across academic disciplines. What that means is that you have full text of articles written by academics working within a bunch of different fields. When we have a look at scholarly resources, as well as specifically the lecture on authoritative resources, we will go over more in depth why it is important that sources be peer-reviewed, which basically means an article isn't just published out there. In academic articles, a journal article is often peer-reviewed, which means that other academics will read the work and judge it before it is able to go into the academic journal. So you have basically a bunch of people making sure that the science behind the article is good, that citations are correct, and that the article is advancing whatever discipline it is that it's trying to investigate. Under Academic OneFile, we have global issues in context, and you have all sorts of interactive stuff, not just articles here, including podcasts, which are basically just audio recordings, video, and interactive graphs. Opposing viewpoints in context, once again, is more of an opinion-based database, so you're looking at people's thoughts on particular issues. And these also include things like magazines, academic journals, news articles, primary source documents, stats, pictures, videos, audio files, and this is basically great if you are interested in ever researching different people's opinions on a particular topic. And then last but not least, we have the U.S. history and world history in context, which provides you a whole bunch of different resources available for you to use. So let's look at what it would look like if you were to use one of these resources. Let's check out Academic OneFile. It will ask you to enter a password. I'm going to enter the password now. But for the sort of safety of keeping things within the Doral College family, the password that I just entered is available to you in the document you have on Brain Honey, titled Doral College Library Resources or something to that effect. That is where you will find the actual password that you will type in. You would hit proceed. And this is Academic 1 file. We are going to go over in depth the most effective ways to search for things at a later date. But let's say that at the moment I don't know what it is that I'm going to research. At the moment you may not know what kinds of topics you might want to look at. So let's try to look for some ideas. Let's say that I am interested in video games. So let's type in video games. And then you have a whole bunch of different suggestions. Maybe I want to look at the way that people look at violent video games. Maybe I want to look at video game movies in particular, movies that people have made about video games and the internet. Let's try playing video games and see what pops up. Great. So now we have a whole bunch of different articles, and you can sort of limit your search by subject. I might be looking at video games and playing video games, but maybe I'm interested in how it is that video games might contribute to science education and how video games might be used in a science classroom. So I'll narrow it down. And now I have 5 academic journal results talking about ways in which video games can be used in science and for science education. Perfect. So basically this is a really, really great resource, and you can sort of narrow it down by what it is that you want to look at. If I only want to see academic journals, it will narrow that down. If you want to see sort of wider news articles, you can click on that and it will show you only news articles that talk about playing video games, right? And when we get into future lectures, we will look at what sources might be most useful for your particular purposes. There's even some videos from some different broadcasts about playing video games. It might be interesting and useful for you. If maybe not doing a research paper, but maybe you're doing, maybe you're doing a research presentation. Maybe you're writing a research paper, but you're also doing a presentation like you might do for your Doral College capstone project during your senior year. And maybe there are some audio clips. Maybe you are an auditory learner, right? Maybe you're an auditory learner and not necessarily a visual or literary learner, if you will. So there's all sorts of different sort of podcasts and audio files that you can listen to as well to get some more information. So that's Academic 1 file. Now, global issues in context is another sort of interesting one. We're going to type in the password again. Oops. Typed in the wrong one here. There we go. So now we'll look at global issues in context. And this is great because here you can sort of look at different resources by topic, and you can look at different issues on a global scale, whether that's issues of business, health, science and technology, conflict, the environment, society and culture, etc., etc. So this is great, especially if you're thinking about doing things from a global or historical scale, but you're not entirely sure what you might want to study. Look at all of these different topics that the Gale Global's Issues in Context has for you. It's really, really cool. And then all of these are often kept up to date, so you have the newest and latest data on stuff. So let's see if we can find something quite interesting. Let's say that I might want to look up the rights of, say, let's look at efforts towards, let's see what happened post-Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. Maybe we want to investigate that. What it's going to show you is it's going to show you a wealth of different articles, whether these are from National Geographic, which is a magazine. Perhaps these are different articles in different newspapers. You have podcasts, so audio recordings that are featuring post-Hurricane Katrina relief efforts. You have primary sources, different websites that you might be pointed to, different overviews. So basically, if you want to get kind of like a Cliff Notes version of Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath, as well as any important statistics, news articles. You have over 6,000 news articles to choose from, as well as academic journals. So you can basically look by topic and find an entire wealth of resources pertaining to global stuff. That's Global Issues in Context. Another cool thing that Global Issues in Context also does, let me get back there. Another cool thing that Global Issues in Context does is that maybe you don't know a particular topic, but maybe you're interested in a particular place. So what you can do is you can go to this world map and pick a place in the world, and then you can sort of narrow it down by topic. So let's pick a place that you might be particularly interested in. Let's say we want to look at issues pertaining to, let's go with Luxembourg. First, it's going to show you exactly where Luxembourg is, which is great for me as I teach geography. It's nice to get those things reinforced. So Luxembourg is right over here. It is a very small country sandwiched in between Belgium, Germany, and France. So let's click on the Luxembourg pin. And there's nothing about Luxembourg. Instead, let's go next door to Belgium. So we clicked on the Belgium pin. Perhaps Luxembourg is maybe a little bit too small to research. All right, that's another lesson learned. Sometimes some places are not researched as much as others. So now let's go to Belgium. So Belgium, here is an overview of the country of Belgium. It gives you even quick facts about the state, the flag, where it's located, what the population is, and all sorts of other different straight-up facts about the state. And you have different references, statistics, news articles, magazine articles, academic journals that talk about Belgium, and on and on and on. So the Global Issues in Context resource is great. Opposing Viewpoints in Context is no different. Let's type in our password. By the time you do this enough times, you will have this password memorized, I promise. It's very, very easy. So if we go to Opposing Viewpoints in Context, what we are going to see are different sort of hot button issues, and then we might see different sides of a particular story. So let's check out, for example, the Ebola virus. So now here are some featured viewpoints, people that have different opinions on Ebola viruses. Let's look at the different viewpoints here. So we have reasons to panic about Ebola. We also have improvements in Ebola. Ebola is no threat, and bans on travel to places with Ebola are actually more harmful than they help, and perhaps these things have far-reaching effects on orphans that became orphans due to their parents dying from the Ebola virus. So you have these sort of kind of opinion articles that show off different, sometimes opposing viewpoints on a particular issue. This is especially useful if you're taking something like a debate class or an ethics class, where you might need to see different sides of one particular issue. Cool. And then U.S. history and world history. And there you go. In U.S. history, we have, you can look at particular important figures in the American colonies, African American perspectives in particular, biographies of different important figures in American history, as well as looking more in depth at wars and conflicts. So this is a really, really good way of being able to look at different topics specifically related to U.S. history. But depending on your grade, I have a feeling that perhaps world history might be more your speed. So let's not look at the U.S., let's look at the entire world. And this is no different. You also have biographies of important world figures, looking at countries, cultures, and civilizations. So maybe you are interested in the Vikings. The Vikings are pretty cool. And you can look at all sorts of different references that feature the Vikings, from encyclopedia articles to current news articles, primary sources, and other kinds of featured contents, magazine articles, as well as academic journals. Very cool. You have some podcasts. So here's some NPR radio shows featuring issues regarding the Vikings. And especially if you want to sort of illustrate your research, or maybe you're doing a research presentation and you don't want to just sort of talk at people about what you research. Sometimes you want to show them what it is that you've researched. So you also have a series of images that can help you really look at the Vikings and kind of give you a better picture, pardon the pun, of Viking life. Very, very, very cool stuff. Right, so that is the Gale database. This is all of the, so much stuff here that you can use for research purposes. That's Gale. Next is JSTOR. JSTOR is great, is a great resource. In fact, I'm currently a graduate student and I use JSTOR primarily as my research database, along with Gale somewhat. And JSTOR is great for academic journals, newspapers, magazines, as well as primary source material, but it is very, very good for finding academic journal articles in particular. So let's have a look at JSTOR. So in order to access JSTOR, you would go to the website, but not everybody has immediate access to JSTOR like we do the Gale database. At the moment, if you go now to jstor.org, you can see abstracts and summaries of articles, and you might be able to do some rudimentary research in order to see maybe just what's out there and how many sources are available. But in order to get the full text of these places, you have to contact Alex Privé. He's our Director of Learning Resources, and here's his email address. And in order to get some account information so that you can have your own account and be able to access JSTOR whenever you like from whatever computer you're on. But I think I have a verified account, so let's try looking stuff up. So this is the website that you're going to be greeted with. So what you can do first, without even logging in, without having gone to Mr. Privé first, is say maybe you are interested in comic books, right? You want to look at the history of comic books or something. So maybe you want to see how many people have researched comic books, how many people are talking about comic books, what kinds of comic books are people talking about. So let's start researching that. So here are some really, really cool resources. So we have a whole bunch of results, 76,000 results having to do with comic books. You can narrow this down by wanting to only look at academic journals. And you can see that that narrows it down to 63,000, you know, because that's helpful. And maybe you want to look at the very, very newest things that people are using to talk about comic books. So some of these, as we will learn when we look at how it is to effectively search, this search may not be as particularly effective because some of these article titles do not necessarily feel like they are as relevant. But let's find one that looks, the architecture of comics. Sounds interesting. Let's give that a click. So here there is a preview of the article, and it shows you what it looks like, and it's telling you, in order to download it, you have to pay $14. $14 in order to look at this article. But no, that is what Doral College is for. Instead of having to buy the article yourself, you can actually log in. So, I will log in using my username. And my password. Hopefully this works. No. Okay, so I was able to log in. Now, once I was able to log in, I could search, and then it takes you to the search page. What you can do is, instead of looking at every single way that, for example, I don't know, comic books have been looked at or any other topic, you can actually scroll down and you can narrow by the discipline. So maybe I might only want to look at an anthropologist's look at comic books. And you can even look at all of the different academic journals on anthropology that exist. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. So you can even narrow things down that way by looking at a specific journal and looking within that journal to see what is cool, what is up. Right. So that's JSTOR. In order for you to get access to JSTOR, you would have to basically see Mr. Privé, email him in order to get access, in order to create your own login information. And then once you do that, please feel free to let me know so that we can go on and move forward and see what JSTOR really has to offer. What you also have available to you, I know that depending on what school you're in, you may not necessarily have direct access to the Doral College library, but at the very least, if you can make it over, Doral College has a number of reference texts available to you, and the list keeps growing. At the moment, it may have a sort of small amount of text available, but Mr. Privé is adding new books and other resources for you every single day. So let's look at what that looks like. If you ever find yourself in the Doral area and you need any research help, or you want to look at a particular reference book, then you can go ahead and literally check it out. The great thing about the Doral College Library is that it has a website that will show you exactly what books are available. So let's see if we can find the actual library website. Perfect. library.doralcollege.com/OPAC. I forgot to add that in. So it may be hard because you're trying to use a keyword search, but you don't actually know what books they have, and you might have a specific keyword for something, and then it might return with absolutely no results. It might be easier, especially since the number of books is relatively low at the moment, to instead do this neat trick. When you're on the Doral College Library website, that's what it is. You leave this field blank when you're searching and click search. what it then does is, by leaving it blank, it shows you every single title that's available. So now what we have here are things like books on being an artist, books on literature, for all of you college readiness folks that are interested in maximizing your college effectiveness or your college related research. You have a handbook of colleges as well as a scholarship handbook. If you are into American history, you got some stuff. Maybe you're a graphic designer. A beginner's guide to digital painting and Photoshop. So what Mr. Privé is trying to do here is he's trying to make sure that there is a large variety of things for any possible interest you might have. Guide to colleges, getting financial aid, yes, maybe you're interested in getting a job, so get yourself a good resume. Maybe you're into movies, and here is a movie guide available for you. Some essays, the Manual of the American Psychological Association, the Cambridge Dictionary of Sociology, one of my own personal favorites. If you're into research on Cuba in particular, we also have an excellent resource there. If you're a musician, a dictionary of music terms is available to you, and also all sorts of interesting other features, like the Pop, Rock, and Soul Reader. I personally made Mr. Privé add this one in. It's a bunch of different essays about pop, rock, and soul music, written by all sorts of different people, academics and musicians alike. So these are your available titles, and in the next few weeks, this number is only going to grow. So always make sure to check back to make sure that any interesting titles have been added. All you have to do is just go to the bibliography search, leave it blank, and then you have a list of every single reference book we have. And last but not least, we have our very own librarian. This is Mr. Privé, and he is our librarian. Technically, I believe he is the Director of Learning Resources. Very, very fancy title. But he is our librarian, and he is here to help. That is his job. He has a master's degree in library and information science. His personal background is in history and English, so if those fields are interesting to you for the purposes of your own research, he's a great resource in and of himself. And in order to reach him, that is his email address, aprivé@doralcollege.com. But if you find yourself in the Doral area, Monday through Friday between 2:30 and 5:30 p.m., so basically after school, he is in the Doral College Library, and he is available for research guidance and help. So if you don't trust me and you want to hear some tips from an actual librarian on how to research, you can go ahead and go straight to him. He has all sorts of resources available to you, and that is his job. He's here to help. Please use him. If you're having trouble and you're saying, I'm looking for this specific thing, or I'm not entirely sure, I looked for comic books and I got 76,000 results and I have no idea how to make sure to get the thing that I want. You know, he's a great resource for that, and he can find all sorts of things for you. Please use him. He's awesome. So this is just a wealth of resources that we here at Doral College have available. And that's a lot. You might be able to basically get all of your current work done for Doral College and your particular school just using these resources that are getting updated all the time. Next time, we are going to look at, first, might be helpful for you to know exactly what it is that you're researching before you get started. So our next lecture is going to look at trying to narrow down a topic. But for now, play around with these resources and make sure that you get your login information set up, and look around and see if you don't find some interesting things for you to potentially research and use for your own brainstorming purposes. All right? I'll see you later, and happy researching!